Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 28 of the John Riley Project. I am really excited to have a guest with me. This gentleman is John Maffei, a sports writer for the San Diego Union Tribune, a veteran of San Diego sports. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm really excited to have you here. You know, you and I, we've crossed paths out at the baseball field at Poway High School, and I know you have a great reputation. You've been in the sports community for a number of years.
Yeah, almost 50 now.
50, really? Okay. And so when you agreed to be on my podcast, I was so excited. And I thought, boy, we can probably share a lot of really interesting stories.
Great. No, happy to be here.
So I'd like to learn more about you. Can you maybe tell me a little more about your backstory, where you're from, and your career, and how you got to this place?
Sure. Born in Chicago, grew up in Pasadena, went to Salle High School, a small all-boys Catholic high school, played baseball there, was recruited to play baseball at St. Mary's, decided that wasn't the right fit for me, went to Pasadena City College, played on a state championship baseball team there with Darrell Evans, our third baseman.
Yeah, from the Atlanta Braves.
From the Atlanta Braves, San Francisco Giants, Detroit Tigers, and
he was on the '84 World Series team.
'84 World. And what was kind of a neat story with Darrell is, and we had remained friends through all the time. And in '84 was really the first year that they put ropes up to keep the media from getting too close to the batting cages during batting practice. And they were stopping everybody in Tiger Stadium, and I'm there in a crowd, and Darrell sees me, and he goes, "He's okay."
Right on.
And he comes up, and we hug and we talk and everything. But you talk about, and I'm still fairly new in the business at that point.
Yeah.
And but talk about feeling on cloud nine, and all the veteran writers are going, "Who is this? Who is this kid?" And
you were pretty young at the time, right?
Yes, yeah, and that was 84, so I was still fairly new in the business. I'd started in '71, but still only a decade or so into the business. But that the teammates' bond is pretty strong.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, especially when you win a championship. And Darrell was also part of a state championship basketball team. He was a starter on the basketball team that won a state championship with Jerry Tarkanian as the head coach.
And was he still chewing towels back then?
He was chewing towels. He was, and everything was a fall. Don't fall him. Coach, what are you talking about? Certain people just can't say. He couldn't say foul.
Right.
It was a fall.
Right.
And but what a great man. And Jerry had offered me a full ride scholarship to go to Long Beach to be his guy. And because I followed the basketball team and kept the book for him and everything, while also playing baseball. And but I wasn't ready to give up baseball, and so I walked on at San Diego State, made the team.
Oh, right on.
And wasn't a great player by any means, but was still good enough to make a team. I was basically, probably my whole career was basically a pinch runner and defensive specialist. I could run and throw and play defense.
Okay.
And had trouble with the fastball and the curveball, which isn't a good thing if you're a hitter.
Right.
But still, those skills allowed me to play and develop friendships and to me get an insight into the business.
Yeah.
And to know when to ask questions, what questions to ask, what questions not to ask. And to read players' feelings, that because I played the game and played with with and against major leaguers, you get a feel. And
so what should you not ask?
You don't ask the probing question right after a bad game.
Okay.
That's and it's a feel thing that if you have a rapport with him, you can ask. But if you're the new guy. And I remember Lee Smith, after he gave up the home run to Steve Garvey in the '84 playoffs, and one of the guys asked him, he goes, "Well, Lee, what did you throw?" And he just there were F-bombs and that's what you don't ask.
Right.
And that not the first question.
Right.
You might work it in later.
Right.
But not the first one.
Right.
And so that's the feel that you get.
Yeah. Well, they're human, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They've got emotions. They've got feelings.
Absolutely.
You got to be able to.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. So when you back in the '60s at San Diego State, it was still a very competitive program back then.
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, especially in Don Coryell was the head football coach,
right?
And I had a great rapport with Don as a student,
right?
And I was sports editor of the Daily Aztec, so Don and we worked together, and then I actually when they went to the Pasadena Bowl in 1969, I believe, as a student, he asked me to help him recruit 3 players at Pasadena City College that he was recruiting, and he goes, do you know these guys? And I go, yeah, coach, I know. We baseball and football blockered together.
Okay.
So I knew these guys, and there were 4 players. And got them all to practice when they were practicing at Arcadia High School we played Boston University in the Rose Bowl, in what was called the Pasadena Bowl, and we got 3 of the 4 players. Skippy Robinson was an All-American defensive back, went to SC, but we got Martin Imhoff, Larry Mitchell, and Mike Reed, all of whom started. Martin was an All-American, played in the NFL. So the bond became stronger because Coach John delivered.
Yeah, right on.
He said he could get him there, and and one of those things where I go out to campus, I walk in, and they're all there. Hey guys, Coach wants to, Coach asked, they're at Arcadia High, it's not far away.
Yeah. And
they're all free, they all come over. It's just the stars aligned, and they all got but to get 3 of those 4 players was a pretty big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
And you're at the time the editor of the Daily Aztec.
I was sports editor of the Daily Aztec.
Yeah.
Then.
So it's not like you're on Coach Coryell's staff.
No.
So yeah, why is he not in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, it's unbelievable, John. He's the only man to win 100 games in college and in the NFL.
Right.
And I'm trying to 104, 19 and 1 at San Diego State.
Oh my God!
And I at one time 55 1-1 at San Diego State, and I mean the All-Americans that and how many of his players are in the Hall of Fame?
Oh yeah.
John Madden was on his staff, and what people don't know, I mean he's the godfather of the passing game,
right?
And everybody, but what people don't realize is that he was at SC on John McKay's staff, and he put in student body right and student body left.
And really?
Yes. And but people don't realize that because at SC you had big, strong offensive linemen and you had great running backs.
Right.
And so when he came to San Diego State, you didn't have big, strong offensive linemen. You had undersized, athletic linemen.
Right.
And it was easier to go. Hey guys, we're going to throw the ball. And it was easier to get quarterbacks and receivers and smaller, more agile offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. So he evolved, and it's worked out that all the great players and coaches that he's that have come out of his system. I'm dumbfounded that he never won a Super Bowl, and I would think that's the only reason he's not in.
Yeah, I mean that's the same knock on some quarterbacks too.
Yes.
So Herm Edwards was there, right?
Herm was there. Herm and John Fox,
okay,
who was head coach at several places.
Yeah.
And Tom Kraft from
Aircraft.
Yeah. Yes. And a offensive lineman, Mike Solari, who is one of the veteran offensive line coaches in the NFL. Okay. We're all on that same team, and
so it's just an amazing coaching tree, really.
Yes.
And then all the players.
Yes.
What's the guy's name? He's turned into a big actor, a TV actor.
Oh, Fred Dreyer.
Fred Dreyer was there.
Fred Dreyer was there.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Carl Weathers.
Oh yeah. Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed was, Carl Weathers. We were in a class together.
Okay.
At San Diego State that. It was called Creative Dramatics, and if you were an athlete at San Diego State at the time, there was a professor named King Povenmire, and he taught 3 4-unit classes, and it was creative dramatics, verse choir, and verse choir directing, and the classes were a hoot, and the easiest classes you'll ever take,
right.
but they were so much fun,
right.
to take, and So you were in there with the Fred Dryers and the Carl Weathers and the Dennis Shaws. Everybody, every athlete took those classes, and it was a blast.
Well, you probably had to make it entertaining to make sure that the athletes got to class.
Yes, yes, and then that's all. All Mr. Povenmire, all King athletes. He said, I know you're all athletes. I know you're in here for an A. All I ask, show up.
Right.
Show up, and Coach Coryell, guys, you're getting a grade here.
Yeah.
Professor asked you to show up, and they did. Everybody showed up out of respect.
Right on. So while you were there, the football program was outstanding. The baseball program, when you were a ball player there, how was the team then?
We were good. Lyle Olson was our coach, and I absolutely loved Lyle Olson. I played for a high school coach who he didn't know third base from a fungo. He was terrible. Nice man, just didn't know what he was doing. JC coach was Ron Robinson, and Ron was tremendous. Lit my fire again. I learned a lot from him, and Lyle was an extension of Ron Robinson, and a great baseball man. But Lyle didn't recruit. You came and you played, and he would coach whoever was there.
Right.
And we were we were good. I was hurt for 2 years. I broke a thumb, and then I was in a collision. Chasing a foul pop-up, and pretty much broke my face.
Oh, my.
You
still look good now.
Well, yeah, it was hard to screw that.
Right.
It was a bunt foul near the first base dugout, first baseman playing deep, and I'm hustling over, and I'm sliding into the balls. It's coming over my shoulder, and he's diving head first.
Oh, no.
And hits me right here.
Oh, man.
Right in the nose, and broke my nose, broke my cheekbone. It was.
Because you had to take the mask off.
Yeah, and then back, and that taught me. After that, I played with my mask on.
Right.
But it was, and I was wearing glasses at the time, so the glasses shattered.
Oh, man.
And it was a pretty bad collision, so that cost me a season. So finally, I get to, my senior year, I get to play, and it came down to we were in a game with UC Santa Barbara that we had to win, a doubleheader. We won the first game, lost the second, and lost the conference title. So we were good. Not great, but we were good.
But the baseball program there has been excellent for a long time. So many great players.
Yes.
But just never seems to get to the World Series.
When the year that we had, Tony Gwynn, Chris Gwynn, Buddy Black. Kerwin Danley, who's an umpire in the major leagues now.
Was it Mark Grace there at that time?
Mark was a little after that.
Okay.
And but you have all these the major league players there, and we win the conference and go back to the regionals, and we're two and out, and it was very discouraging.
Right.
And but and they'll get there at some point. Mark Martinez has taken over where Tony left off,
mm-hmm.
and Mark will get there eventually.
So you were there during the Dietz era as well, right?
Yes, and really enjoyed working with Jim Dietz.
Mm-hmm.
Jim and I became very good friends, and I ended up coaching his summer teams, and took one of his summer teams up to Alaska. We were up there for a month playing games, and what I thought, still to this day, was the best collegiate league ever in the Cal Collegiate League, where you could have 6 players from your school on your team.
That's a lot.
It is, and it eventually the NCAA legislated it down to 4.
Right.
So the league wasn't quite as good. Then they legislated it down now to 2.
Yeah, right.
And
it is 2 now.
It is 2.
Yeah.
So, it was San Diego State, USD, USC, UCLA, Northridge, Pepperdine, Loyola, Irvine, Long Beach. And so you could run your program. You could run your program as your summer program, and with your incoming freshmen, your incoming JC kids.
Yeah.
And we had, they were just unbelievably good. The San Fernando Orioles were the SC team, and Northridge and we played doubleheader. We played Pepperdine in one game, a doubleheader at Pepperdine. We faced Mike Scott and Jesse Orozco in a doubleheader.
Wow.
We got 4 hits in the doubleheader and split. Split. We lost. Mike Scott beat us 2-0, and we hit 2 solo home runs, and beat Jesse Orozco 2-0.
Wow.
And so that's the type of talent that you're facing,
right,
in that league.
Right. Wow, that's a competitively, and then up in Alaska, I know they play those games 24 hours.
Yes, yeah, we played the Midnight Sun game when we were on tour there. We played it in Palmer, Alaska, which at that time was the Palmer Green Giants.
Right.
And you start at 11 o'clock at night, and you play straight through. The sun dips down about 2 o'clock in the morning, dips right down. About 15 minutes later, comes right back up, and that was a blast.
Here's a name. I don't know if you'll know this guy. Bob Moss. Was an umpire.
Hubba Jubba.
Hubba Jubba, baby.
Yeah.
And I went to UCSD, and he was there, and I got to know him, and he was an umpire, and he told me about his trips to Alaska.
Yes.
And it was fascinating.
Oh, Bob, and what people don't know about Bob was a football and baseball player at San Diego State, was all conference in both sports.
Really?
And probably when Bob got very large.
Yeah.
But he probably played about 265 in college.
Wow.
And was agile, strong, and as good a player as he was a man.
He is the best man.
Yes.
I mean, he was just so much character, so much enthusiasm.
Yes.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
And so when I was a student at UCSD, I TA'd for him in a softball class, and I just did it for fun because I just loved being around the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he 1 year, and it might have been more than 1 year, but he had the umpiring contract with San Diego State, and he would only he'd bring a 3-man crew, and he would only charge for himself because the other 2 umpires would be UCSD students.
Right.
And he would do things in a game if a left-hand hitter was up and there was a check swing, and the batter check, and he would check to the wrong umpire, and testing him.
Right.
And so guys would go, no, Bob, not my call. And he'd go, correct. John. So he was.
I could totally see that happen.
So he was teaching. The whole time there.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What a guy. I didn't know he was as great of an athlete. I mean, I didn't really know his backstory.
Yes. Yeah.
I just knew him as just this man of huge personality and enthusiasm and just positive energy.
Yes, absolutely. What a great guy.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're up in Alaska, and were you at that time? Were you a player or were you coaching?
I was coaching then. Yeah, I was coaching then, and it was one of those things. Typical Jim Dietz, and I can say that because Jim's my friend. Is bring extra uniforms with you. Because when you go to Palmer, the Aztec players on the Palmer team will come over and play for you. And it's the same thing in Anchorage and Kenai and in Fairbanks. Well, they did, except for we only had 4 pitchers with us because the pitchers were going to come over. And everywhere we went, he just pitched yesterday. Oh. And we don't want him to. So we played a 22-game tour with 4 pitchers.
Oh wow!
And being a young, fired up coach, we're out there. We're taking infield. We're throwing. We're doing. And like 4 games into the tour, I sat down with the team and I go, you know what? We're not going to waste arms. We're not going to take infield and out. We'll hit ground balls. I want guys to just roll the ball in. It's saving arms.
Yeah.
because I need guys who aren't pitchers to pick up some games. So we'd sacrifice like every other game. Right. We'd go Charlie Holstaff one game, and then we'd have one of our legit pitchers, and try to get through that way. And I told Jim, I said, Coach, he goes, how come you guys are getting beat so bad some of these games? I only have 4 pitchers.
Yeah, exactly. You're still going 9 innings.
Yes, against really good teams.
Oh, I'm sure.
And all those teams had big leaguers on them.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were getting beat so bad at one game in Palmer where, I came in and pitched, and just to get us through the last 3 innings.
So you're like Frank Robinson. You're like the manager and a player.
And I'm just, guys, I'm just throwing BP fastballs.
Right.
And, please don't hit anything up the middle and try to kill me.
Right.
And Earl Batty Jr. was catching. The Earl Batty Sr. was a catcher for the Twins for a long time. Yeah. And he hit the longest home run I've ever seen. And but it was fun. I think the guys on the team, they understood what I was doing, and the other coach too. We have to sacrifice something.
How was the travel schedule? I mean, that's a huge state.
Yeah, we landed in Fairbanks. What's funny is we left San Diego. We stopped in L.A. picked up players on the team. We went to San Francisco, picked up more players. Then got to Seattle, picked up more players, and then hopped into Fairbanks.
Okay.
And then it was by bus once you got to Fairbanks.
Right.
Everything was bus.
Wow.
And it was fun. I mean, the guys on that team are I still see those guys were still friends. I wasn't that much older than they were. Mm-hmm. So Tony Camara, my first baseman, is the head of the English the head of the math department for the Grossmont School District.
Oh wow! Nice.
And T and I, we talk all the time, and it's just Kenny Rutan, my third baseman, his son was a really good high school volleyball player, so Kenny and I keep in touch. And Roz Majum, our second baseman, it was such great camaraderie back then.
Well, like you said, it's the bond of teammates, right?
Yes.
Right? And they become, they're like your extended family.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're traveling together, and we stayed in the dorms at Alaska Fairbanks, and Alaska Anchorage, but in Palmer we stayed in a big old barracks type of thing because we're on the state fairgrounds.
Okay.
In Palmer, and that was. And you guys were getting up at there was only so much hot water in the showers.
Oh no!
So guys would get up and sneak into the shower at 5 o'clock in the morning to get a hot shower.
Right.
And and then come back to bed. But like I said, those are the things you remember, and guys laugh about it now. So
after you were coaching and you got into sports writing. And, I was reading your bio, I know the whole media landscape with newspapers has been so volatile, especially over the past 15 or so years. But tell me a little bit more about your career and how you got into sports writing and where it went from there.
Good. Well, and really, it's kind of started in high school where I had Christian Brothers taught it at my high school, at LaSalle High School. And as a freshman, one of the teachers, came up and he goes, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm going, Brother Martin, I want to be a Major League Baseball player. And he goes, nice. Have you looked in the mirror? You're 5'0", you're 100
Right.
Don't ever give up your dream.
Right.
Keep working. Don't ever give up your dream. But he goes, you write well. You have a good personality. You get along with people. See if you can't get into something sports related that will keep you in the sports field, but maybe not as a player.
Right.
And so at that point, then I joined the school newspaper, and that was the push as a freshman in high school that I needed. And and I still at our 50th reunion, Brother Martin was there, and I said, hey, you're the guy who got it started.
Nice.
That was the push. But then it went from there to Pasadena City College. I was the editor of the paper, then sports editor of the Daily Aztec. Worked in the sports information office at San Diego State. And the funny thing, how I got my first job was Larry Littlefield, who was the sports editor at the Escondido Times-Advocate at the time, wanted to call Don Coryell in the football office, dialed the wrong number, and got the sports information office.
Okay.
Was talking to Mike Ryan, who was the sports information office. He goes, "Oh, well, hey, Mike, well, I got you. We're adding a third guy. We're adding a guy, and we're looking for a young college student, college graduate." And Mike goes, "I got a guy."
Oh, right on.
And I happened to be in the office. He put me on the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to Larry, and Larry, he says, "Well, here we set it up to come up and interview. Typical thing. You bring your clips and everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people they interviewed or brought in, but I got the job. And
right on.
So 2 days after I graduate, I'm on the road. My first assignment was a high school basketball game at Fallbrook.
Okay.
And at the time, there was no Interstate 15 then, or no, so I'm going up the old 395 and going, where the heck where are they sending me?
Right.
And there's no cell phones, there's no pay phones.
Yeah.
And you just, you go, this must be the right way. And
right.
Fortunately, the high school finally popped up, and you go, oh, wow.
Right.
But that was my introduction to being a professional sports writer. But and it took off from there. Worked a year and a half there, went back to San Diego State as a sports information director, worked there for 8 years, went back to the Times-Advocate as a sports editor, and have been in the business ever since then.
That's awesome. And so you probably have met so many, athletes along the way, probably got to know a lot of them personally.
Oh, yes.
I imagine, building relationships. And you've already mentioned Tony Gwynn, and we're here recording this in Poway.
Poway, yeah.
And Tony Gwynn, of course, just a celebrity in our city.
Oh, yes.
And we got a statue built for him over at Lake Poway.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony became a great friend, and people say, well, what's your fondest memory of being a sports writer? And I've covered 44 Rose Bowls, the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Sun Bowl, 11 Super Bowls, the World Series, the playoffs, NCAA Final Four. We were the host school in 1975 when UCLA won the championship, John Wooden's last year. But my favorite thing was sitting on the bench at Padre games. Tony would always hit early.
Right.
He would never hit with the team. As his career developed.
Right.
And so he'd come out and he would hit at maybe 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And the sports writers who knew it was up, myself, John Quintera, who was a radio guy, and John's become a great friend. And we would sit on the bench with Tony while everybody else is taking BP and just talk baseball, basketball, talk everything. Nice. And I mean, there was and John Quintera, and even now we'll talk. He goes, "Can you believe it? We'd be on the bench shooting the breeze with Tony Gwynn." Yeah. And
Hall of Famer, man.
Yeah, and that that infectious laugh that Tony had, throwing his head back and just and then when Tony got the job at San Diego State, I remember vividly I walked into his office. And he's got his hat on backwards and he's all disheveled, and I'm going, T, what's up? And he looks at me and he called me Mafe, and he goes, Mafe, I wish I'd have paid more attention to fractions in high school. And I go, what's the problem? Because he had 11.7 scholarships. And so and at that point you could cut him into eighths, quarters and thirds, or fulls. Right. And so he's trying to match up, the eighths and the quarters. If you give 5/8, how many quarters can you give, and how many thirds? Right. And you could just see smoke coming out of his ears on the fries. It's like, T, the easiest thing to do is give 8/8, 3/3, and 4/4. Yeah, there you go. And that, if you start giving 5/8 or 3/4, then you're going to be all screwed up. Yeah, keep it simple. Yes, yeah. And but we had a great laugh over that one. Oh yeah, it's just what a guy. And my Tony Gwynn story is kind of a silly one. I was just in the Rubios over here in Poway. Okay.
And I'm waiting on my meal, and he was there waiting on his meal, and I'm like, double take. And he just sort of like looked at me and just sort of smiled and nodded his head, because he probably got that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I didn't want to approach him, or, he has his private life. But just what a great guy.
Yeah,
you know?
One thing about Tony, too, is he would sign, he had a beautiful autograph.
Really?
A beautiful signature, and I don't, I see some of your things here, but there's not you could, it was the big T with the, and it was a beautiful autograph, and just didn't scribble it, and I go, why do you take the time to, everybody scribbles it, and he says, Maeve, that might be the only interaction that man, that child, that lady ever has with a big leaguer, and I want it to be a good one. I want to give them a legible signature. And I want them to go back home and, like you just said, go back home and go, I met Tony Gwynn at the Rubio's, and he signed, and look at this, I want them to remember me as being a guy who took an extra 15 seconds to sign a legible autograph for them.
That's so awesome.
And, T, that's why people love you.
That is so awesome. So you just get to hang out in the dugout with him and watch BP and just shoot the breeze.
It was, and then when his son, when Anthony played basketball at Poway, he would always be up in the top rafters filming.
Right.
And people would go up, and the Poway coaches protected him. And, because Tony's, I'll sign anything you want. Please let me film my son and watch my son play.
Yeah, of course.
And people would, and after a game, he'd be there. I'd be writing the story, and he'd be up there for 45 minutes after a game, still signing autographs.
So
but
awesome.
As long as you respected his right to watch his son play,
right.
he would take as long as it took to sign autographs.
Right.
And Anthony was a really, just like Tony. Tony's still the all-time assist leader at San Diego State.
Yeah, that's an awesome stat.
And drafted on the same day, drafted by the Clippers and the Padres on the same day. And Anthony was every bit as good a basketball player as Tony was, but blossomed from his junior to senior year was up at the area code games in Long Beach and blossomed there. Had a breakout 4 games up there, and that's what launched his baseball career.
Right on. Well, I remember hearing the stories of that when Anthony played at Poway High, Tony would sit like beyond the outfield fence.
Yes.
Like there was a big light pole, and he'd set up a chair.
Yes.
So he could watch his son play without all the distractions.
Right, and I think he learned that from basketball. He would sit in the parking lot beyond the right field fence.
Yeah.
And kind of like right by the foul pole, there's a stairway going down.
Yeah.
And he would park himself there, and that's just didn't want to be disturbed. Wanted to watch his son play.
Right.
And not be, he figured if I hide, then I don't have to disappoint people and tell them I'll sign afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
well, hopefully he made himself visible before and after the game.
Yeah, especially after.
Yeah, so he wasn't like, trying to avoid.
Right, yeah.
But, he's such a warm guy.
Oh, yeah.
But, let's talk a little bit about this Poway, Rancho Bernardo, Rancho Penasquitos area. There's been so much talent in baseball, football, basketball that has come from this area.
Oh, yes.
And so maybe you could share with me some of your memories and some of the great athletes you've covered from this particular North County Inland area.
Oh, there have been so many, baseball especially in, Rancho Bernardo with Sam Blaylock being there, and Sam and I were teammates in college.
Really?
And so we have a great friendship.
Okay.
Poway has been great, and John Harmon was a coach at Poway for years. Started a great tradition. Bob Perry is there now, and Bob, I coached Bob for a year, 2 years at San Diego State. Or I'm sorry, I was coaching, helping coach Palomar at the time.
Okay.
And coached Bob, Darren Johnson, Dominic Johnson. Great baseball minds.
Oh, unbelievable! Both of those guys.
And that has been such a fertile area for talent. And some football players, good basketball players,
Well, Judd Bushler.
Yes, yes, and Judd and honestly, Poway has a very good basketball team this year too.
Oh yeah.
And they're long and lean and athletic, and they're kind of a sleeper team sitting on our poll like in number 8, 9 somewhere in there. They're kind of a sleeper.
Let's say that Adam Severe. That little guy just can hit them from deep and make these athletic plays in the lane.
Yes.
He's special.
Yeah, and I saw them play and did a story, and Adam was the guy who jumped out at me with all the talent they had. Adam's the guy who made it go.
Exactly.
And got the ball to the right guy.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't there, they'd kick it back to Adam, and he'd restart the offense. And
were you at the last year? There was a double overtime game, Poway Rancho Bernardo.
Yes.
That was the best high school basketball game I've ever been to in my life. And,
yes.
And Severe just lit it up. He scored over 30 points in the second half.
Yes. Yeah. And that's part of that rivalry. They're playing again. They play the first game. The first RB Poway game this year is Friday night at Poway.
Oh, right on.
And I saw RB play without their big man, and they're very ordinary without their big man. But with the big man, they're obviously very good.
How tall is he?
He's like 6'7", 6'8".
Wow.
And he had a concussion. He came down hard on the floor and banged his head. But he's healthy now, and he's back playing. So that's going to be a pretty good game on Friday night.
It's funny. It's like I got to know Dominic Johnson as my son is a pitcher, and so he works with Dom. And Dom will sometimes remind us that he holds some of the scoring and rebounding records at Poway High.
Dom was a basketball player, and he was a good baseball player, but he was a really good basketball player.
Yeah.
And you look at Dom now, and what's Dom, 6'4", 6'5", maybe, and broad shoulder.
Yeah.
And could shoot it, knew how to use his rear end to move people out, and move them out and get the layup. And he was primarily and that's why people go, that knew him then go, Dom Johnson's the pitching guru.
Yeah.
And he's this era's Tom House. If people know who Tom House is, was kind of the pitching guru that everybody went to, big leaguers, and Tom would fix you. And now big leaguers, everybody from 7-year-olds to big leaguers go to Dom.
Oh yeah.
And because he's the guy.
He's the guru on the top of the mountain.
Yes.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, I enjoy spending time with him and just listening to his stories and the people he interacts with. And all the major leaguers are just in his backyard here in Poway.
They're in his backyard. He's got and he'll tell you X, Y, and Z are coming over today.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Coach Blaylock, and he was featured in the book Moneyball. They talk about this is a launching pad of baseball talent, and Cole Hamels and Trevor Williams are in the big leagues now.
Yes.
Tell me about some of the players you've seen at RB.
I mean, obviously, Cole and Trevor jump out, and I mean, Cole was, as a sophomore, was 10-1.
Wow.
And then something happened over the summer, and Cole's never really made it clear, but he whether it was a growth plate or he said he was playing football, touch football in the street, banged his elbow against a car, and didn't pitch his junior year at all. Only DH'd.
Right. Came
back his senior year and was as dominant as he was as a sophomore. And I remember in the playoffs, it was, I think, the first year of the series where you had to win 2 out of 3 in a series, and it was RB and Montgomery.
Okay.
And everybody in the world, every general manager, everybody was down at Montgomery to watch Cole Hamels pitch against Montgomery.
Right.
And he was spectacular down there, and it was just the two different cultures, the Rancho Bernardo kids, the kind of entitled kids, and against the Hispanic speaking Montgomery kids.
Yeah, I got you.
And two completely different cultures.
Yeah.
But the way they played against each other and the respect that they had on the diamond for each other. And Manny Hermosillo, the Montgomery coach, is still there. And I told this to Manny last year. I said, one of my vivid memories of high school baseball, and he goes, he said, after that game, in that series, he said, I almost started crying. He said, I thought about the respect. We're speaking Spanish. Our guys are all speaking Spanish in the field.
Yeah.
And but the RB kids weren't looking at us like, hey, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
They looked at us like, these guys are players.
Right on.
These guys are good. And he said there was a mutual respect that, that doesn't happen all the time. And he said, I agree with you. He said one of the great series in high school baseball was that Rancho Bernardo Montgomery series when Cole's senior year.
And how did Cole perform?
Cole, I don't think he threw a shutout. If I remember, he won 2-1.
Wow, that's good.
With every, like I said, maybe not every general manager, but several general managers, scouting directors, all there to see him, perform, and to perform like that. And you can imagine, how do you not hit the ball when you're out? You look up and all these radar guns go up. And you're
hit the bull. Okay,
yeah.
I got the reference now from
Bull Durham.
Yeah.
So and that to keep your composure and being able to to throw against a Montgomery team that was outstanding.
Right on.
And Eric Chavez was a great player, and Eric Chavez and Eric Munson playing together at Mount Carmel, and Jaime Jones.
Oh yeah,
and
Jaime lives here in Poway.
Yes, and Jaime's I think he is scouting with. I know he's scouting
with the Tampa.
Yeah.
Because he signed the Mercado kid from Westview.
Yes.
When he was drafted in the second round a couple of years ago, and then he has been running like a scout ball team for Tampa.
Yes.
So good guy.
Yes.
Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember Billy Bean.
Oh yeah.
Billy's general manager of the Oakland A's, and the day before the draft that which would have been Eric's senior year draft, and Billy calls me, and he says, John, he said, let's just suppose that Eric Chavez and Jaime Jones are on the board. Who do you choose? And I go, I love Jaime Jones. He, what a beautiful player, beautiful stroke. I said, but Eric Chavez will play in the big leagues. Eric Chavez will find a way to play in the big leagues. He, no matter what it takes, I can't tell you he's going to be a star, but he'll get there. And I go, Billy, why are you asking? And he goes, well, my scouts, he said, you've told me exactly the same thing all my scouts are telling me.
Right.
But scouts tend to fall in love with guys.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And I wanted to get an impartial opinion of somebody I trust who has seen both players. And I said, it's not that Jaime won't make it, but I guarantee you Eric will make it.
So here you've got Major League Baseball general managers relying on your advice for the draft. You've got coaches in collegiate football helping you recruit players. You're like the guy behind the scenes, like pushing the buttons.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it's just local knowledge and hopefully guys trust you. They trust you to give an honest opinion.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to I wanted to let Billy know that. And he's just he was a guy that I really enjoyed watching it, and to this day still a good guy. You see him in if you go to camp to spring training, and the A's are there, and Billy will and it was better when the late Kevin Towers was alive. Kevin Towers, just what an unbelievably good guy.
Oh yeah, the stories from him are just unbelievable.
Oh gosh, and having the privilege to sit at a spring training game with Kevin and Billy, and to have them let you into their circle, and just and again, Kevin would always go, if I'm sitting there and you go, John, we're off the record, any stories that are told here, off the record.
Right on. Okay.
If you want to ask me later about it on the record, you can ask. But if you're sitting here with us, we're off the record.
Right on.
Perfect.
Right.
But
well, that's how you guys build trust too.
Yes. Yes.
So awesome. That's great.
And Kevin was when Bruce Bochy, a Poway resident, was managing the Padres. Some of the great memories were after every Sunday home game, Boch, after everybody got all their interviews and wrote their did their stuff, Boch would close the door. It'd be Boch, KT, and 3 or 4 beat writers. And door would close. Everything was off the record.
Nice. And
you could ask anything you wanted about any baseball related topic. And it was just, to sit in there and hear those guys, what do you think about this player? What do you think about this guy? He's a dog, he's underrated. He's and to get honest opinions of things.
Right.
You couldn't write it.
Right.
But it was knowledge that you could maybe use it at some point.
Yeah, you could. It would influence your writing style.
Exactly, and maybe influence you to ask a better question.
There you go.
Because you had some knowledge now.
Right.
And those Sunday sessions were just it was a privilege to be in there with those guys.
Wow. Well, you really kind of worked your way into some of the inner circles here. So let's talk a little bit about football and maybe kind of expand the San Diego County and all these Heisman Trophy winners that have come from the area.
Yes.
So have you been following those stories as a beat writer?
Oh yes, yeah, and it the Ricky Williamses and the Rashawn Salams and just some great players. And I remember Rashawn Salam was played at La Jolla Country Day when they were playing 8-man football, and we had a huge, Steve Brand and I went round and round at the All-CIF meeting because he wanted Rashawn Salam as the CIF Player of the Year, and I'm going, it's a different game.
Right.
It's a completely different, 8-man football. I'm not saying he's not good because he is.
Yeah.
He's going, Rashawn went to Colorado, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
And, as obviously he's a great player, but I can't make an 8-man player of the year.
Yeah.
You could put any number of backs on an 8-man. If you can 8-man football, if people don't know, if you can get to the corner, you're gone. If you get to the corner in 11-man football, you're going to gain some yards, but it's not a touchdown. But with Rashawn, if you're a good back, you get to the corner, it's a touchdown.
Right.
And so we go round and round on that one. But obviously he Heisman Trophy winner, played with the Bears. Great player.
Yeah, right on.
And and Ricky had a great career, and
Marcus Allen,
in the CIF championship game, scoring, throwing a touchdown, rushing for a touchdown, returning a punt for a touchdown, returning a kickoff, scoring 5 times 5 different ways, and an unbelievable performance. One of the top performances ever in a championship game.
Wow. So, across your history here as a sports writer covering pro, college, high school sports, tell me just some incredible thing that you've witnessed. Maybe it wasn't a famous player that went on, but just some of these really legendary stories.
Wow, that's one of my favorite stories was when I was working at San Diego State in the 1975 Final Four. And we were the host team.
Oh yeah, the sports arena.
At the sports arena, and we were that was the first year that teams were allowed to. That teams came in and practice, and the practices were open to the public.
Oh.
And so I went down as the host. The UCLA was scheduled to practice, I think, at 1 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So I went down probably 8:30, 9 o'clock. Instead of going to the office, I went to the sports arena. I said, I just want to make sure that everything's okay.
Right.
And I walk in, and the locker rooms are a disaster. I mean, the Gulls had played a couple of nights before, and there's ankle tape and towels and orange peels, and every locker room is a disaster.
Oh my God.
So now what do I do? we're the host. And so I go to the arena staff and I go, we need to get this cleaned up. And and they go, hey, you have a work order?
Oh my God.
Well, work order. We need to get to, He goes, we don't do anything without a work order. So I go, okay. I get on the, pre-cell phone, everything. You find a, you find a pay phone. Call the office. Call my secretary, who happened to be my secretary was Claude Gilbert's wife, the head football coach's wife.
I said, she gets it.
Yeah. So I said, Mary Lou, I got to get Gene Lamke was our intramurals director. Fred Hammond was our facilities coordinator. I said, can you get Gene and Fred on the phone? Get them down here as fast as they can get here.
Right.
They come down. They're there probably within 40 minutes or so. And they come in, they go, this is crazy.
Right.
So one of them stays, and I think, Gene went back, got a bunch of football players to come down, and we paid, there were 3 or 4 football players. We'd probably be on probation for 100 years if we did it now. But we gave each of the guys $20 to come down and clean up, and then Fred went back and got portable lockers. We put up lockers.
Wow.
And
so how much time, if they were practicing at 1 o'clock, you were scrambling in the morning?
We were scrambling up until, well, the funny thing is, we get the last dustpan full of stuff in the trash, move the trash around the corner, and I look at my watch, I go, it's like 5 to 1.
Yeah.
You try to put yourself together, walk around the thing, and here's John Wooden leading the brooms down the ramp.
Yeah.
And I go, holy cow! Hi coach, how are you? And we were good friends. We had played them before,
right?
So he knew who I was, and I said, coach, let me take you to the locker. And he walks in and he goes, oh, this isn't half bad. I heard this place was a toilet. And you're funny. You want to go, coach, you should have seen it an hour ago,
right?
But and that same tournament. The NCAA had Tom Jernstadt was the gentleman who was the NCAA rep for the tournament, and he was going round and round with the sports arena management about getting things done. And we had a meeting. It was early morning that same morning. And that's one reason I was there. We had like a 7:30, 8 o'clock meeting in the arena offices. And Tom's going, okay, we need, this hasn't been done, this hasn't been done, this hasn't been done. And by the way, on the way in today, I heard that you were charging to park. And he goes, we've advertised this as a free event. And I wish I could remember the arena manager's name, but he says, well, tough. What are you going to do about it? It's on all the radios.
Right.
This is what we're going to do. And Tom just goes, you know what? If you don't rescind this, I'm moving the tournament.
Whoa.
And he goes, you couldn't do that. And he goes, can I use your phone? He picks up the phone, he dials a number, and unbeknownst to, I didn't know if Tom was bluffing or not, but he goes, yeah, this is Tom. Is the arena still available? It is? Okay, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Puts the phone down, and he goes, ball's in your court. He goes, okay, I will, and now I have to scramble and call the radio stations and tell them it's a free event.
Right.
And later I asked Tom, I said, he called the LA Sports Arena, and Tom, did you really? He said, oh yeah. He said, I had the same dates booked in LA, and we would have, if he hadn't done that, I'd have moved the tournament. Well,
given the reputation of the sports arena, I mean, John Wooden, you probably had to have a plan B, right?
Yes, and we were building a press box. Still like an hour before we opened the doors, and they, because there were only so many seats, so you had a row of seats. Then you built a platform, and then another row of seats, and they were still being built. And our athletic director, Ken Carr, back then there was a NCAA logo
right,
that you put down on the floor. It was a big kind of plastic logo, and you squeegeed it, you put it over the floor and squeegeed it out. And our athletic director was on his hands and knees squeegeeing out the bubbles of the logo.
Right.
At the same time, they're rounding off the edges in the press box.
Unbelievable.
It was the craziest thing. We pulled it off, and at that time we had 400 accredited media at the event. At the time was the largest event ever, and pulled it off pretty much without a hitch once the ball went up in the air. But
well, the story I always heard is that after the '75 Final Four, the NCAA said we're never coming back to the sports arena.
Never coming back, and that was one of the last of the small arena venues. Mm-hmm. Now they're going to they went to the Astrodome and Superdome. They're playing the big venues, and they said they would definitely come back to San Diego, but they would never go to they've had regionals now at San Diego State,
right,
and but they would never work with the sports arena again.
So what do you think is going to happen with the sports arena in San Diego? They're going to blow that up at some point, right?
I would hope so. And they keep pouring money into it, and they've done a nice job trying to fix it up. But it's kind of like Qualcomm Stadium, SDCCU Stadium. It's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do. And the seats get broken, you fix the seats. At one day they were famous for sticky floors. The soda would get spilt and they would never get cleaned up. It's much better. And the inner workings of the stadium, if people sit in their seat and they only see what they see, but if you get into the bowels of the stadium, it's a disaster.
Oh yeah.
It's brutal. And I went to the Notre Dame Navy game and was sitting right next to the Notre Dame sports information people.
Right.
And the stadium now with the seats are all faded, and he goes, God, this thing looks terrible. And I said, well,
right.
wait till the old lady gets people in here,
right,
and it'll come to life.
Right. And it does, yeah.
And he goes, I said, what'd you guys think of the locker rooms? And he goes, he said, the Chargers played here? They played professional football with these locker rooms? Are you kidding? And, so, they said, great experience coming to San Diego and all that.
Right.
But they said we could understand, why the Chargers demanded a new stadium.
Right.
It's falling apart.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Yeah. The things that you've seen over the years, the people you've met, it's just incredible.
Oh, it's been, like I've never worked a day in my life because I get paid to go to games that people are paying to go to.
Right.
And I was sitting at the Torrey Pines basketball tournament and with Manny Silva, who coached several years out in the East County and at Santana and in Valhalla, and he goes, when are you going to retire? I'm not retiring until they tell
right,
until they tell me I have to.
Right.
Because I said, Manny, you paid to get in. Mm-hmm. I'm getting paid to sit here and talk to you.
Right.
So I feel pretty lucky to have, and my son gets mad at me because he goes, he says, you're one of the few people I know who really enjoys going to work.
Do what you love, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I envy you. I mean, you get to hang out with Tony Gwynn in the dugout. It's sitting around with Billy Bean and Kevin Towers. Unbelievable.
It doesn't get much better. Buddy Black, we still get a bunch of the San Diego State guys. Mm-hmm. When Buddy was managing the Padres, we'd do it 4 or 5 times a year. We'd meet for breakfast, and a lot of the old San Diego State guys would you'd just swap lies and make yourself look better. But and now it's like once a year or twice a year where Buddy can fit it in.
Nice.
But those are the kind of relationships that you built up over the years.
He still lives like in Rancho Santa Fe, right?
Yeah, still lives there, and splits his time between there and Colorado, and has done a great job. And I think his history has pointed out that it wasn't Buddy's fault that the Padres aren't very good.
So let's make this the final topic we'll talk about. Tell me what your forecast is for the Padres in 2019 and what we think we can see from them in the following years after that?
In 2019, I think they're going to be terrible, if you want an honest opinion. They don't have a third baseman. They don't have pitching. You signed Ian Kinsler, a 37-year-old second baseman, who I like. I like Ian Kinsler as a player, but how much does he have left?
Yeah.
And can he play third base if they move him to third base?
I keep thinking he could be like Chase Utley was with the Dodgers.
He could be.
Yeah.
But Chase Utley was fit into a really good team.
Right.
This is not going to be a good team.
Right.
I love Austin Hedges. I think Austin is being a former catcher. I love watching Austin play defense, and he's going to come as long as a hitter. Eric Hosmer is a really good guy. Urias is a nice player at second base. There's a giant hole at shortstop. There's a hole at third. You've got too many outfielders. You've got to pare that down. I'm not sure. I'm not anti-Will Myers, but I'm not the world's biggest Will Myers fan either.
Right.
I think there's some maturity that needs to happen there. Alex Dickerson.
Yeah.
I would love to see Alex be healthy for a season.
He's a great hitter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, another Poway guy.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it was funny because Alex Witten Bernard, who played at Rancho Bernardo and is now he played AAA with the Cubs last year, and John Quintero and myself, we met last year before and had lunch before those guys went to spring training, and Alex was 100% healthy, and then gets to camp and immediately blows out his elbow.
Yeah,
and
just a jinx,
Yeah, it just and he and Witten had worked out, and but that was and John Quintero and I and we go. Was Witten or was Alex not telling us something? And no, it just happened.
Right.
It just overuse. He was trying to get those long throws in from the outfield.
Yeah.
And just was overuse of his of the arm. But I think the pitching staff is. I hope the young pitchers can progress. What the scouts tell me is that the young players, the young position players that the Padres have are vastly overhyped.
Really?
But the young pitching is real.
Interesting.
So, is Fernando Tatis overhyped?
He seems like the real deal.
He seems to be the real deal.
Yeah.
And they do have some good young players. Franmil Reyes came out of nowhere last year.
Yeah, he's special.
To put up, can he now advance and keep it going? I think, Janikowski has proven he's a major league player.
Right.
Is he an everyday player, or is he a guy who moves around and comes off the bench and plays defense and starts once in a while? And, some decisions that Andy Green has to make. But I don't look for this to be a good season. I hope the future is as bright as they're selling. I have my doubts, but as a lover of the game, I hope it is.
Well, I think I read that Vegas had the over/under on their win total at 77.
77.
And I thought that seems a little high.
I'd go under.
Yeah, But I'm always the optimist, So I'm.
Yeah.
And I always joke about the San Diego sports curse, and we just never can seem to get over the hump.
Yes.
I keep thinking one of these days the Padres are going to win the World Series.
One of these days, and it might come down to that. In '98 with playing in Yankee Stadium and Mark Langston throwing a strike and it's right there. The inning's over. Who knows what happens?
Yeah.
If that ball's called, correctly called a strike.
Yeah.
They win that game. Maybe turns the series. The Yankees were awfully good that year, so maybe they probably don't win it. But you would have liked to have seen it, give them a chance.
Right.
The two times they're in the World Series, they faced the 85 or 84 Tigers were one of the great teams in
Yeah.
history. The '98 Yankees were one of the great teams in history.
Yeah.
You know, can we get into a World Series where we're on even footing, the other team's just as good as we are, instead of being one of the great teams?
Well, at this point, I'd be happy with a 500 season. You
Yes.
know, and then we can kind of work on our
baby
way.
steps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, John, this has been great. I've loved this conversation. We can go for hours.
Yes.
You know, but I respect your time. I thank you for being here. It's been a great discussion. So
Great. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.